Good evening here at my studio. Welcome to a new video series that I'm calling 3D Thursdays. So each Thursday I'm going to bring you some sort of three-dimensional product that you can make to coordinate with your card projects, if you have party favors, that kind of thing. So today we're going to make one of the very first 3D items I ever learned to make, like almost 20 years ago at this point, which is called a 2468 box. All right, so first I'm going to show you. This is our current mini catalog from Stampin' Up, January to June 2022. Most of the items I'm using today are coming from that catalog. So here's a list of what I've got going on. My samples are going to include Pacific Point cardstock, Vellum cardstock, which I've used the Tailor-made tags die, and some white embossing powder. Then I also cut the same piece out of white cardstock. Again, that's the Tailor-made tags dies. And then I have some navy baker's twine, which comes from the Fan Baker's Twine pack, which is on page 69 of that mini catalog, and I'm using approximately 20 inches. Then I have some designer series paper from the Waves of the Ocean. This is a limited time offer, and what I did is I cut a piece that was 2x4, and then I cut off 1/2 inch. So I have one piece left over that's 2 by 3.5, and I have one piece that's 1/2 by 2. And this is going to go on my tag, so that's kind of an optional thing for you. If you just want to have a piece that covers a side of your box, then you just need a piece that's 2 by 3.5. And then I also am going to be using some rhinestones from the Rhinestone Waves Jewels. Again, this is a limited time offer in the Waves of the Ocean collection. All right, so let me get started. Actually, I'm going to bring this up just a little bit so you can see it closer in case you want to freeze that, make some notes about where these items come from. This will also be in the information about this video, and you can find that in the comment section below. All right, so for a 2468 box, you are going to need a piece of cardstock. You can make this in just about any size you can think of as long as you have over 8 inches wide. So I'm doing this with a 1/2 sheet of cardstock, so that's 5.5 by 8.5. I've also done it with a full sheet of cardstock, so that would be the full sheet, and then just cut, or you do the same measurements just on the full 8.5 by 11. I've also done it with a little bit smaller than that, or I've cut off 1 or 2 inches maybe, so you're working with an 8.5 by 9 or 10 or something like that. So basically take that 8.5 inch width and go anything that you want from there. You're also going to need a strong adhesive, so I recommend either some glue like our Tombow Multi Glue, or Seal Plus, or tear and tape, and I'm going to be using tear and tape today. You're also going to need some kind of scoring tool, so either our Simply Scored or your regular cutter with your scoring blade in it. And then you're going to decorate your box up however you want to. So you can add designer series paper, other cardstocks, things you die cut, stamped images, all whatever you want to do. Some kind of embellishment if you like. So I'm using rhinestones today. You can use any kind of cute little gem or anything you want. And then for closure, you can simply staple it with your stapler, or like I'm doing today, I'm going to use some twine. So you could take twine or ribbon, and that's going to jazz yours up a little bit. All right, so first I will show you how you get started. So you're going to take your piece that is 8.5 by 5.5. Remember, this is only the size I'm working with today. You can alter that however you'd like once you've got the size box that you want to work with. Okay, so you are going to follow literally by name. It's a 2468 box because you're going to score at 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, then turn it and score again at 2 inches. This part here will become the bottom, and these are your 4 sides. This little tiny piece left over, you're just gonna cut that off, okay? So let me go ahead and show you how that works with my scoring, or my paper trimmer. So again, you're gonna put that in at 2 inches and give that a nice score. Then go over to 4 inches and 6 inches. And in case you didn't know, this has, okay, I can't grab it. I have to flip it over to grab it. Where am I grabbing? Here we go. There we go. An extender bar. So once you are going beyond, then you're just going to want to hit that 8-inch mark and get a good score. Okay? And then, like I said, rotate one direction and go again at 2 inches. Okay. And then you can just set that aside. That is the last you should need of that. All right, so again, go ahead and mark all those creases really well for yourself so you know where they are. There's the 4 and the 6 and the 8, of course, is super tiny. So just make sure you get that really good. Then go ahead and fold the other direction and give that one a good crease. Then grab your scissors, and like I showed you here before, you're gonna cut off that little tab. So just that tiny piece right there. And then to make the bottom fit nicer as a nice squared off item, I'm actually gonna miter these edges as I cut them. So as you can see, I kind of like drew in like a little extra triangle there just to give yourself a little more room as you cut. So I'm gonna take this on a little bit of an angle and cut up to where I've cut that off already. Then when I go and cut in between these guys, remember you're only going up to that 2-inch point, and I'm gonna take just a little bit off an angle so that when you can see when they go back together, there's a little bit of a gap there. And that's just gonna help our box fold a little nicer when we're all done. So go ahead and do that at each of those positions. Again, just up to that 2-inch crease. Okay, there you go. So you've got those 4 cuts and along with the piece that you've removed. Okay, go ahead and get all those scraps out of the way. You're done with that. Now let's grab that adhesive I was talking about. So you're gonna wanna put one piece along this edge here, and we're gonna go ahead, like I said, I'm gonna use my tear and tape. I love my tear and tape because it works so easy and quick. And I wanna put it against the edge that's gonna end up being where the box meets. So not the edge of the cardstock piece itself, but the edge where that fold is gonna be, okay? And then you just go ahead and remove that if you're using tear and tape. If you're using your seal or your glue, you're gonna run that right along that edge as well. And then just make the edges meet up there and give that a nice little burnish, perhaps with your bone folder. Okay, now you can see this is where our box is gonna be formed. So now you're gonna take your flaps and it doesn't really matter where you start. Go ahead and fold one in, and then I'm gonna add my tear and tape onto each of these edges here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then as we assemble, I'll show you how they're gonna go together, okay? So you're gonna need adhesive on each 3 out of the 4 of those to keep that guy closed. And I know this is a little hard to see because the flap's in the way, but there we go. So I've got the 3 edges going like so. All right, so this is the one I pulled it down first, so then I'm gonna take the opposite and get that tear and tape to come off. This is always the most exciting part of watching any of these videos, is watching us remove adhesive parts or like the backs of dimensionals. Okay, go ahead and do this one. And a little bit of a burnish there with your finger. And then your last one is gonna fold in like so. And then if you want to, you can stick your bone folder down there and just run it along each of those edges just to make sure that tape is nice and secure. Now I like to keep the part where they've come together. I kind of put that into the back corner, if that makes sense, and I make this front panel my focal point. Now, if you want to decorate this up extensively, I would recommend doing that before you assemble the bottom part, okay? I'm just going to be putting a piece of cardstock on it, so I feel comfortable doing it in this box shape. But like I said, if you're going to do any kind of stamping on it, if you're having a more delicate image or something like that, I would go ahead and do that before you assemble it all the way to this finished bottom, okay? I'm also going to use the tear tape on this DSP just because I want it to sit really nicely on that cardstock and not move. All right, and I'm going to do the sides and just a little bit in the middle. Now this is that Waves of the Ocean DSP I was talking about. One side has these really pretty blues, and the other side, so you can see these are like blues and aquas, greens, and then the other side are these really pale sea-like image or seaside beachy images. So you've got the yellows and the corals and a little bit more of the green as opposed to blues. Really, really, really cool designer series paper. And again, that's only at a limited distribution right now, so I would make sure you snatch that up before it's gone. Alrighty, here we're gonna go ahead and remove that backing of those. Okay, so this is the side I'm gonna want those to go on. I'm gonna go ahead and just line that up on my cardstock, like so. Okay, and like I said, if you wanna do more decorating, then it would be a little bit easier to do when it is all squished or laid flat. So before you assemble the bottom, you can go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to show you where we're going to go with this. So this is what the finished one looks like. Okay, and you can see the sides kind of tuck in. It's almost a little milk carton-like. So in order to get that effect, all you need to do is just push in from those two sides and pinch the top closed. Okay, maybe push down a little bit here so that you get those creases or those sides to be indented a little bit more. All right, now like I said, you can just go ahead and grab a stapler and staple that shut, and that will adhere it closed. You could punch some holes in it and tie a ribbon through that way. I'm just gonna wrap my twine around it and do a tag attachment that way. So I'll start with my twine. Like I said, I have about 20 inches or so here, and I'm just gonna have some of it sit off the side here, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it around like 3 times, 2, 3. And then this is the part that's probably gonna be hard to see on camera, but I'm actually gonna lift all of it up and tuck that string underneath to come out the top side. And that's gonna hold all those strings together. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and tie a knot. And then when I'm attaching my tag, I don't have to worry about that piece moving or coming apart on me, okay? So that's the first part. I tied the twine around. Now I'm gonna go ahead and assemble my tag. Like I said, I have just a little bit of that designer series paper left here because I wanted just a hint of color to come through behind my piece of vellum. So I'm just gonna tape that down right in the middle of my tag. And like I said, I did the tailored tags. I cut one out of basic white and I cut one out of vellum, and they're just gonna sit right on top of each other. And you can adhere them together if you like, but you don't have to. I kind of like the fact that it'll make me a little bit three-dimensionally, but this one I'll show you I did adhere down. So I put just a tiny bit of glue at this edge and a tiny little bit of glue across the top so that when it dried, there was just a little bit of it showing. You have to be a little bit careful when you're gluing vellum. You don't want to use too much in very conspicuous places because you might see through. It's also the reason I don't use like my seal or anything like that on there, because you'll see that through that vellum. So it's good to use on there if you have something that's going to hide it, like an embellishment or the stamped image or something like that. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot. And I'm going to do a double knot because then I can tie my bow again without having it come apart. Okay, fingers are working slowly tonight. Try that again. See, why is it always when you're on camera that your fingers don't want to work? There we go. Okay, now I have that tied and I'm just going to add a bow. And then once you've attached your tag or whatever element you would like to do, like so, then you can trim off any extra you have. I think mine came out pretty even, so I'm going to go ahead and leave those. So there's the difference of it not being attached to itself. You can kind of see it moves around a little bit, and you can see some of that DSP on occasion. And this one, like I said, I have attached totally down, and so that doesn't seem to move at all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you these beautiful rhinestones. It comes across like in all of the colors from your coral or your cabana and your pool party, and this is a little bit of the greeny color. There's almost a very pale blue that's almost silvery, and then a couple shades of the darker blue. So a wide range of sea-like colors there. And I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple of those on there for me. One right there. And I like to work with these guys in sets of 3. I like odd numbers for my embellishments, and I like to do what I call the visual triangle so that your eye flows in a triangular pattern over whatever you're making. So there are my 3 little rhinestones on top of my tag. Okay, and like I said, I just let the DSP on this one do all the work. You could use any kind of cardstock design on here you like, die cut images, fuzzy cut an image, anything you want to do, stamped, cut out, die cut, all that kind of fun stuff. And again, you just squish the sides closed to help make that little milk carton-like finish. And I'm going to show you what I meant by having other sizes. This is one I made for an event a while back with the Heart and Home collection. So here's one that's larger. This was, I believe, a 10-inch length. So I cut just 1 inch off of the regular cardstock. But again, 2, 4, 6, 8, finished up the bottom exactly the same way. And as you can see here, I just added a little bit of designer series paper, some die cut images from that collection, and then my tag with my phrase, again, wrapping with some twine just to finish that off. So here's like the difference in size. You can see this would be a half of the sheet of cardstock, and this is almost the full sheet of cardstock. Okay, so thank you for joining me on the very first edition of 3D Thursday. So again, here is the dimensions in case you want to freeze this image and take a peek. Here are my samples of what I'm using tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and move these out of the way a little bit. And there are your cutting directions in case you need those again, or cutting and scoring directions, I should say. All right, thank you for joining me for 3D Thursday. Happy stamping, everybody.